build deep. But anyway, I'll talk a bit about that. But before I continue with some of the principles, I have about 7, 8 principles that I wanted to share with you, and then we open up for question and answers. Yeah, Ken? Okay. Now, simple definition of business, and this is not a business school, and a definition is a layman definition. It's basically an enterprise that adds value to something and then selling it at a higher price, and then that difference in added value is called profit. So the question is, being an entrepreneur or you want to become a businessman, you have to add value. Unless you add value, you can never gain the profit. I mean, there are a lot of business people here in Malaysia, for example, being a middleman and make some money. True, but it is not long term. You cannot be long term. In order to be long term, you need to add value. So you need to get something, add value to that something, and that something is called profit. And that's the very basic of definition. So unless we add value, we can never get profit. So the goal is for us then, as an entrepreneur, is start thinking, how do I add value to this water, for example? How do I add value to my capacity? How do I add value to your staff? How do I add value to many things? So the moment you think about adding value, then naturally profit will come. And some of the lessons learned. Principle number 1. Think big, start small, build deep. And as I said, being an entrepreneur, the only asset you have as a startup is basically your dreams. That's your vision. This is what you want to be. In 10 years down the road, this is what you want to be. This is what you want to achieve. And that's the biggest asset. And that's about thinking big. And then you begin your journey, because being small, you don't have much money, right? So start small. You don't have to start big. Start small. And then begin the journey of building your company, or building the clocks, I call it, bit by bit. And then start building. And then build deep. Build deep means let your roots go down. Because if you don't have a strong foundation, your companies will never sustain long term. It will be an overnight mushrooms, if you like. But really, you need to build deep. Down there, I say there is a superstructure, there is structure, and there are substructures. Now, if you think about a building, for example, a large building like this, right? Now, from the outside, you look as a superstructure. You look big. Or you look at KLCC, for example, it's a big structure, right? But then the substructure, or rather the little components that joins the structure, that forms the framework, the column and the beam, are the one that gives strength to the building, right? You all of these are engineers, right? So the person or the things that give strength to the superstructure are the substructures. And what I'm trying to say here is focus on the substructure, not the superstructure. In other words, if you look at a big building, okay, when you build, the substructure is the one that gives strength to the big building. And if you want to start as an entrepreneur or start a company, the substructure is your people and the character of your people. If you can build a nice company and a nice setup, but if the people and the character of the people in your company are not right, then you can never grow in a sustainable manner. Some of the lessons that I've learned was that, in my early days, I have, as I said, I have about, first project was about 100K, and then subsequently another 100K. So the first year was 200K. And the money that I had, I spent most of it renovating my office. And that was the biggest mistake that I had in my life. Because I was building the superstructure, I was not building the substructure. I wasn't investing in the quality of the employees that you have, because that's where you add value. So back to definition of business. What is definition of business? Definition of business, you bring something and you add value to that something, and that something added value to that something is profit, right? So I was building office space. I was building, wanting to build a nice office. And that was wrong in my, it was a mistake that I made. So focus investment on the substructures in early days, especially in the early days where you have very tight cash flow. So focus on building the right thing. In fact, right now we don't even need an office. Starbucks is a good place to to start up a business. A free Wi-Fi and well, you got to pay for the coffee, but but at least there's a place you can start up. Those days I thought, I should rent an office space, I could renovate the office space and build an office space. The money that I earn, 200K, all goes down the drain to office renovation, which has no value to my customers. Zero value. It has got no value to my customers, and I've not added any value to my service or my product to the customer. So I learned from there that we should invest in something that is adding value. Second thing is that focus on, sometimes we call it build the clock. When you look at the clock, you look at the face of the clock. Yeah, the clock tells you time. Some has beautiful clock, but what is important is building the components of the clock behind the clock. So focus on the substructure again. So look at, you open up a clock, there are a lot of small components within the clock, right? So your focus is to build that small components within the organization and then make it a beautiful clock. So the questions or the lessons learned that I had was build the capability of people, focus on the character of your employees, and then execute on that vision. And I want to touch something about vision. Without vision, man perish, right? So you need vision in order for you to survive. And just 2 weeks ago, I was in Europe. I was meeting my friend, and he set up a company 5 years ago. He set up a company with 6 people, 6 engineers, and himself. And he says, when I first started up, my vision was to be a global company. 6 people, Italian, 6 row of engineers. And he says, if I were to start up a company, my vision is to be a global player. True enough, in 3 years, they have all the global customers within him. And in 5 years, he sold a company at 12 million euro. Although I did not so much agree with him selling off the company, because the fact that you start a company, you want to do something long term. But anyway, the fact is, he had a vision. The vision is to start up a company and global in nature. For me, when I start up as a person, with little that I had, the vision that I had was to be an Asia Pacific operation support system provider in service assurance, the thing that I was showing you just now. So I want to be a leader in Asia Pacific, a bit smaller than my friend, thinking globally. But I wanted to have that vision. Even though I have little, but the asset is your vision, and your vision sells, and it kind of rubs off to your future employees, if you like, But this is the way, we can do it together. We can do it together as a team. As a company, we may not achieve, the vision yet, but we are on a journey, and we are known to be the leader in the market space that we play in, especially in Southeast Asia. And then the journey is, of course, continue to be the market leader for Asia Pacific and continue to grow the best we can, and the best effort we can, right? So that was the first lesson. One was to think big, start small, and build it. That was the first principle. Second principle, or rather second things to you to consider, is cash and profit. I say here, profitability is a necessary condition for existence and a means to be more important ends, but it is not the end by itself. Profit is like oxygen for the body. They are not the point of life, but without them, they are not life. Most of us think business is all about profit. Wrong. Business is about adding value. Now, profit is important, don't get me wrong. If you run a business without a profit, it is like living without oxygen. But oxygen is not the end of life. A company survives because of your vision and because of what you want to achieve. So cash and profit is very important. So the question for you right now is that if I were to say, I want to start a business, And if I want to start a business, where do I get the money? There are many ways to raise money. You know, fundraising, there are many ways to raise funds, right? Here I list up some. Some is you can get some financing, startup financing from the government, for example, or microloans. There is asset-based loans. You know, in other words, you know, if you have a property, your parents give you a property, you mortgage that and get some loan, and bank term loans, angel investors, venture capitalists, or your own money. There are many ways of getting money or to start up money. And for me personally, I prefer, believe it or not, your own money. I mean, the venture capitalist is not here, they may not like me. Many venture capitalists have been coming to me. They are not like what I'm going to say. But the fact is, the best way, I think for me personally, don't get me wrong, there are many ways, there are many businesses that are successful using all these kind of methods to raise funds, to start a business. And it is best. I'm not against that. But for me personally, I think if you have money, use your own money is the best than using other people's money. That's the definition of business. If you have a business and you add value, and out of that value is a profit, right? Now, if you take money without adding value, then you're giving away your rights. You're giving away something that you have, either in the form of your share of your company, or you have to pay back. For example, if you ask for a VC, okay, you go to the VC, you have good business plan, right? And you go to the VC, please give me R1 million. And VC say, okay, your plan is good, but I want a return in 3 years. And on top of that, I want a share of your company of 70%. So what's left with you? You're almost like working for another employer. Because if you go to VC, that's what they want, either 50% or 70%. And in 3 years, they're going to sell off the company anyway. So the question is, are you going to be in the business for long term or short term? I mean, you can be in the short term and make money and run away. Yes, you can. But if you want to be in the business long term, then think about what you want to be, 10 years down the road. Now, if you start with your own money, like in the case of myself, I have 30K, so I started 30K, and then it grew. Whatever profit I make, the first mistake was investing in the building, which is terrible. The money that you make, you invest back into the people, hire more people, the more money you make, reinvest. The more money you make, reinvest. That is your own money. That is your own money investing into your company, rather than taking a VC, for example. You can. No, don't get me wrong. VCs are good. Some VCs are good and really moving forward. Another thing I want to talk about bank loans as well. You can take bank loans, right? Say, okay, I can take bank loans. Yes, fine. You need collaterals. Even if you have collaterals, before you start a business, you're already digging your another burden. Cash is important. Why cash is important? You got to pay for your suppliers. You got to pay for your employees. You got to pay for yourself. And if you take loan, then you got to pay to the bank. So there are 4 things. You are added burden to your business. But the fact is, if you do have money, of course you need to borrow somewhere. My personal advice, if you like, is to start saving money. Maybe the first 2 years you start working for a company, and within that 2 years start learn to save money, and that money that you save will be your startup capital as an entrepreneur. Or after graduation, you get some contract work, save some money, and then build from there. You can do many things. Some lessons learned: invest in the long term. So as I said, you invest long term. You spend money when necessary, especially like building intellectual property, adding value, build the substructures. Cash flow planning is important, and also train your employees the importance of profit. So in the beginning, the employees need to learn that profit is the way to go, right? Any questions? Or should I just continue? Okay? Now, third point about winning and perseverance. You know, when you go into business, of course, you want to win. Now, if you don't have the attitude to win, then you have a problem, because you will never make it in the business world. So you need to be able to be competitive, and you need to win. And at the same time, there is a lot to do with perseverance. Perseverance means, you hang on to tough times. Even in difficult times, you hang on, you believe in your vision, and you move forward with that. Abraham Lincoln said, "I'm a slow walker, but I never walk back." So that means you persevere, you walk forward, and you walk forward. I remember when I first, as I said, started a company, and I remember I was working for Agilent. I was the managing director of the local company, and I was the head of the local office. And that local office is about 150 people, and I have a secretary, and then I tendered my resignation. I started a small company. It happens that when I started a small company, I began to do a small business with Agilent, the company that I work for. Before that, okay, how many more minutes? Okay, a company that I work for, and then and they wanted some servers. So I have some servers in my office. So I say, okay, I'm going to, without thinking, I'm going to take that server and then deliver that servers to that office. And the person that receiving my servers on the other side was my ex-secretary. And he said, "An, what are you doing?" What she meant was that, why are you doing the job of an office boy or delivery boy? I felt like dropping the servers and run away. Your pride. At that point in time, you never think. But by the time she said, "An, what are you doing here like this?" And then you felt like dropping the server and then run away. And that's the fact. And you got to persevere. And sometimes you got to throw your pride away. Throw your pride out of the window, if you want to become an entrepreneur. Sometimes, you just have to to go down and do it. And another way was that, when I was the managing director of Agilent, I have lots of friends. When I make an appointment, everybody wants to meet me. When I start a small company, when I try to make a company, nobody wants to see me. Then you know who are your true friends, right? Those who want to see you are your friends, and those who do not want to see you just want to make use of you. So the fact is, when you start a small company, you got to persevere. Perseverance means, running in humility and accept it as a fact, and you grow from that, and so on. Okay, so some lessons learned. As I said, throw your pride out of the window. And then perseverance and consistency is key to winning in marketplace. So consistent to your customer, consistent in your branding, consistent in your way that you deliver your service or your products to the customers. The other thing I want to share is that a company that builds a winning team will win. So you as a potential or future entrepreneur, when you build a team, that team has to be a winning team. Now if it's not a winning team, it cannot win in the marketplace. You cannot do it alone. And the fact is that, in order to win, you got to build a strong team. And building a strong team means that you have to convince your future employees that you are the person to believe in, right? As an entrepreneur. Because you have nothing, unless you have lots of money to throw away. So winning business does not depend on the product or the service, but winning business depends on the people that you hire. There's no secret. I know it's simple, but execution is tough. So you got to get the right people. And the right people is not about the right skill. It's also the right character and the right attitude. So you as a potential and a future entrepreneur, build your leadership skills. And that was the next couple of things later that I'm going to talk. But right now I'm talking about growth. Because if your people were to stay with you, and your people want to stay with you, they need growth. The people need to grow in their career. People need to grow in their salary. People need to grow in their aspiration. And you need to grow in your vision, and you need to grow in what you want to do. So growth in business is very important, and that is item number 1, item number 4 now. Okay, growth Growth is important because without growth, your company will stagnate.